Hello, everybody. Dave Neal here, stand-up comic, host of Bachelor Nation News, recording from my mobile studio setup. And we have a new article that came out this week. Bachelorette star Rachel Lindsay's flightiness led to Bryan filing for divorce report. Now, the only people that would know why Bryan would file for divorce would be people within his inner circle. Or, unless he was drunk at some airport bar and was like, flightiness. And they're like, does that mean she was flightiness or you're missing your flight? What's the deal? What's going on here? Well, we've got this story. We're going to take it with one grain of salt because, these are usually one-sided things. Not to say he's lying, but there's always two truths to a story. And let me tell you something. There has nary been a divorce that doesn't have people coming out. You know what normally has to happen? I don't know all the stages of grief or whatever, but there's the denial, the shock, all the things. And then there's the revenge. No, we'll have to see. I'm sure Rachel will feel a certain way. A lot of times when you get dumped or break up, there's this feeling of bitterness, like, you robbed me of all of these years. My 30s were wasted. I should have picked the other guy. And again, I'm not saying she's going to do all of this, but I certainly wouldn't judge her if she did. The hell does flightiness even mean? You know me, public school education, not afraid to look a definition up. Flightiness is the tendency to change your mind or be unpredictable. Your best friend's flightiness means it's hard to make definite plans when with her. You can't count on her to show up on time. My wife is my wife choosing what dinner she wants as a pregnant woman is flightiness. I want Chinese. I want that. It's like, what do you want? Just get. You know what? Here's what I've learned. Buy it all. Here's some pizza. Here's some Chinese. Go to an all-American buffet and get your lady some mac and cheese. Bachelorette star Rachel Lindsay's flightiness led to Bryan divorce. Okay, so let's just read the article, see if it's any good. The bloom is off the rose for former Bachelorette star Rachel Lindsay. Her 4-year marriage has turned into a bed of thorns. I see what you did there. For chiropractor husband Bryan who recently filed for divorce. Don't end the puns there. It was a bed of thorns for chiropractor husband Bryan He was bent out of shape over it. Once he served her the divorce papers, he pinched a nerve. It's time for her to adjust her. Okay, you get it? According to a recent report, sources claim Bryan 43, is done with being dragged across the country to support his wife's ever-changing careers, RadarOnline.com has learned. This is odd because, now look, I'm a fan of both Bryan and Rachel. I think they both have great attributes, and he seems like a smart guy, business-driven, fan favorite, and she's got a passionate voice, very successful podcast, this and that. Fantastic. But a report claiming that he's done being dragged across the country, you only get dragged across, he's only was dragged across the country once. Now, I could understand there being bitterness if his career is not working out. Maybe it's harder to get the sort of clientele when you've left your, a home that you've built for years. So that could be an issue. But being done dragged across the country, that just sounds kind of strange way to put it. Insiders claim the husband and wife had different visions for their future together, causing their marriage to crumble in the process. They had different ideas of what their future should look like, a source told the National Enquirer. Oh, okay. Oh, right. This article was in the National Enquirer. Let me guess. They were divorced because he was abducted by aliens and fathered an alien baby, and she found... Okay, just National Enquirer. Hey, sometimes crazy speaks truth. Don't forget that. Sometimes crazy is the only truth you're hearing, and maybe National Enquirer is the crazy girl you knew from high school who says some wild things, but you keep her in the friend group because it's kind of like, did you hear what Trisha said about the cabal of underground, whatever. There's always a cabal involved. You're not crazy unless you use the term cabal. Where's my cabal of content creators supporting me out here? Hit the like button if you're caballing for Dave. All right, free caballing, free falling. Okay. Bryan's practice was in Miami, and that's where he wanted to be, but Rachel wouldn't be pinned down, and she was constantly uprooting them. Yeah, not getting pinned down might be one of the issues here. You want a happy relationship, get pinned down and consensually. Bachelorette alum Ashley Iconetti dished, there's been a bit of smoke around this couple for a while because the private pair didn't often post about each other on social media and occasionally lived in different states. Oh boy, they didn't live together. I know, I get it. They fell in love, and he moved for her, she moved for him. Don't forget, she moved for him, right? Didn't he move to Texas for her, and then she moved to Miami for him? So it's not like, it takes two to tango. Where my cabal's at. Ballin', shot calling. Cabalin', shot calling, 20-inch blades on the Impala. Cabalin' getting late tonight. All right, let's pin down this story here. I'm sorry. I don't know. This is just one of those stories. You can tell there isn't much to it, so I have to sort of freshen it up. This is like when you cook bland chicken, so you just throw some curry powder onto it and make make something good out of it. All right, so here's my metaphorical curry power. 2 years after Abasolo won 38-year-old Lindsay's 2017 season of the reality dating contest, the Lovebirds got hitched. Wow, that's the shittiest sentence I've ever read. Let's read that again. 2 years after Abasolo won 38-year-old Lindsay's 2017 season of the reality dating contest, the Lovebirds got hitched, period. Whew, boy. Since then, he's lived in Dallas, Miami, and Los Angeles with the competition's first black bachelorette. But tipsters reportedly claim Lindsay isn't done chasing the spotlight and is currently raring to settle in New York City for her dream job of co-hosting The View. Oh, that's interesting. Bryan got frustrated with Rachel's flightiness and unwillingness to commit to one place and start a family. 1 minute she'd say she wanted to try for a baby, and then she'd be on a flight out of town. Bryan got sick of it. Okay, again, you can want a baby and still have to fly for different jobs. I don't think, and by the way, not a flattering photo. Come on, more smiling photos here. In the end, they realized they weren't a good match, the source added. RadarOnline.com has reached out to reps for Lindsay and Abasolo for comment. Lindsay admitted she and her man were living totally different lives shortly before Abasolo sought a divorce for irreconcilable differences and entered a request for spousal support from his now famous ex. As the outlet reported, court documents filed by the chiropractor listed the couple's date of separation as December 31st, 2023, which of course was odd because this was filed on January 2nd. So he literally was like waiting at the court doors after New Year's. He still has his New Year's hat on. He's got his little kazoo. He's ready to go. He's just got glitter and stuff from New Year's. He's got, he's like, I'm going to need some paperwork. Abasolo noted that the couple has yet to divide their assets and debt while listing a North Hollywood home as community property. In addition to requesting spousal support, Abasolo also requested that his ex cover his attorney's fees. Since the pair share no children, they won't have to argue over child support or related custody matters. So there it is, folks. And then look, the whole spousal support thing is interesting because we talked about this recently, and maybe this conversation will probably tie more into the conversation that Nick Viall was having, where his podcast show, we'll call it him, his podcast show, his little podcast over there called Brock a Payroll Husband. Brock is the husband of Sheena Shea from Vanderpump Rules, and of course it brings into this idea: if the woman of the relationship is the breadwinner, is it right for the man to request, 50% of whatever revenue they made while they were together? And again, to take the devil's advocate here, Bryan moves his company from Miami to Los Angeles. My guess is it cost about $100,000 just to move. I saw some of his equipment. I know this because I'm driving across the country and it cost me $6,000 for a moving truck I have to drive myself. So what would it cost to get some giant equipment, special trucks? I don't know. Some of these, you might say, why does a chiropractor have giant equipment? Trust me, one of these things I sat on was so big. I asked him, I go, dude, who buys these things? It was this large compression table that kind of locked your head in, and it just so slightly pulled back your body. I'm talking very slightly. It would almost be like if someone was pulling your neck and then releasing it, but it would do it for 30 minutes. It had a TV attached. I was like, who buys these things? And he was like, most people that buy these are just rich men in the Middle East, like the Saudis, the Qataris, there's just rich. If you can afford this tool, you buy it. And I'm like, what does this cost to travel this across the country? Not to mention to fold his business there and start it up here. And why do I bring that all up? Well, because if he did move for her and her career is making all of this money and he's taken a hit, does he have the right to say, hey, you made $1 million 4 years in a row. Let's call that $4 million. I was making $500,000 a year until I moved my business. And now this year I actually lost money. So let's say my net income is zero. So you've got $4 million you've made since we've been married, and I've got zero. I'm requesting spousal support from you because my career took a hit. Again, I don't know if this is the case. I don't know if it's the wise thing to do, but I'm just guessing that there'll have to be some sort of division of those assets they've acquired together because, that's kind of it's when you get in a relationship. I know a guy years ago, I think he passed away. His name was Bryan. Bryan K, we'll call him. And his wife was the breadwinner. She worked for the military and had a really big fat pension. And then they got a divorce and he ended up getting a portion of her pension. And while it seems like sort of shameful, it does. It seems shameful. And that's what people use is a shame as a tool to say, oh, this is ridiculous. He's asking for her money. It's like, well, it's kind of like that's the basis for equality, right? Is that everyone's treated equally. And if, if they had a baby and he became the full-time income, and she was the one who sacrificed her career, then she would be entitled to the money that he made for the family if they broke up, right? I don't know. Let me know if I have this right. I'm trying to get it all right. But it is an interesting conversation that it leads to about equality out there. And we will get a response from Rachel. I didn't have the graphic pulled up. She posted something like, on a hike with our pal, is a pal from her season of The Bachelor, right? Something like that. And it said something like heartbreak or shared a broken heart, like mending the soul. It was one of those like eat, pray, love type posts. So we're happy that Rachel seems to be on the mend. And we know when she is mended, if she is flighty, she's probably going to land herself into a epic response, which we are. I'll be the guy on the ground with the little lightsabers being like, all right, land this drama right here. Bring it home, baby. We'll be here to cover it. And we wish them both the best. All right, we'll be back with more content right after this.